Either they love you, or they hate you, or they gon' judge you. It is what it is. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the magnificent astrologer at I am Jade Moon on Instagram to the show. And we're gonna break down the cosmic blueprint, a guide to astrology. That's the title of the show tonight. And she's here. She's gonna break it down to layman terms what all this stuff means. A lot of people usually don't know what their sign is, or they do know their sign, but that's just about it. But there's so much more that goes into like astrology, and I know like a lot of religious people, they won't go into astrology because they're fixed on their religion. It's like there's fixed signs. Ain't that right, Jade?
Why we're on an open minds channel, right?
Exactly. So, um, Jade is going to explain all that encompasses astrology. So, people that don't understand it, they can have a real simple term to understand it. And she's going to actually go into some other things and break down a lot of other things. I believe she said she's going to break me down a little later on. And then she's going to break down through astrology what's going on in 2020, all the craziness that you're hearing. She's gonna break down everything as far as astrology goes for that. So when we talk about astrology, there's much more than the month you were born. You know, everybody's like Aries gang, Libra gang, Cancer gang, all that. Shout out to all the zodiac gangs. But there's much more that goes into the zodiac and astrology than just meets the ear or the eye. And from my understanding, I'm here to learn more too. I've dived in a little bit. I had one of my boys put me on a couple years ago, and used to get the traits and this and that, see compatibilities and stuff like that. Some people are not even on that level, but there's stuff like there's houses in astrology that mean something, and there's planets that mean stuff with your astrology and your zodiac sign. Ain't that right, Jade?
That's right. That's right. I feel like we all know what our sun sign is, right? We all know what month we were born in, and a lot of people read like the daily horoscopes in the paper. Remember those days where they used to have the horoscope signs in the magazine? And
Mm-hmm.
people just always read that sign of like what their birthday month is, but they don't realize that it's so much more complex than that. Like there's a whole lot of detail that go into it. And with the help of astrology, because it changed my life. Like when I discovered astrology, it helped me understand my purpose. It helped me understand things within myself that I needed to change or I needed to heal. It helped me understand like what the future was bringing in and how I could kind of read the planets to understand what themes are going to play out in my life. And and that's there for us. It's a tool for us to use if we feel called to do the homework, right?
Right.
I'll break down the major components. So, well, when before you even meet someone, you can know a lot about a person based off of their astrology sign. And we talked about the sun sign, which is your birthday month, right? That's your personality. You take on the characteristics. For example, I'm a Virgo. I was born in September, and so my personality is very much of that of a Virgo. However, there's also the rising sign. And this is why it's so important. I always tell my clients, like, if you can get as close to approximate the time that you were born, the better. Because the time of your birth helps you understand what your rising sign is and then your entire chart. The rising sign is what people think when they first meet you. It's the first impression that they get when they first meet you. It's also how you, like, what you give off to people, right? So, say your sun sign's a Gemini, but your rising sign is a Libra. Even though your personality is that of a Gemini person, when that person walks into a room, people are going to see the Libra qualities of them. What does this mean? And we're going to dive into also what these characteristics mean per sign, just to give people an understanding of all of that. But the sun sign, the rising sign, and the moon sign, which the moon sign is your subconscious. This is parts of ourselves that we might not share with other people, right? These are how things that we feel about ourselves within ourselves, maybe our closest people we open up to, but not always. And the moon sign is how we feel. It's how we process our emotions as well. So those are, I feel like, the three main components that help determine the characteristics of someone, but it goes way deeper than that. There's so many
So
more other.
So sorry to interrupt. So there's a lot of different signs that come about when we talk about astrology. She mentioned the moon sign, the sun sign, and
The rise.
there's other signs. But let's rewind back and like, where does like astrology like come from, and
Yeah,
like
let's
what's
do
the
that.
meaning of astrology before we get there?
Yeah,
Because a lot of religious people they have a conflict with astrology because it goes against what they have been taught. So if we get like a good premise grounding, because as far as yourself, you was brought up religious also, correct?
yeah. I was born and raised Catholic, and and it was that influence that helped me understand spirituality, right? So I'm grateful for my upbringing in that sense and seeing how spiritual I am today. But history wise, yes, I understand that there's stigma in some cases around astrology, but astrology's been around for thousands of years, and many indigenous cultures have worked with the star systems. They've worked with the constellation of the stars. They work with the Earth cycles, right? The moon cycles. This is nothing new, and a lot of different cultures from around the world have been working with the sky to help with the crops, right? With their plants, with the decisions that they make. There's something called the Farmer's Almanac for a lot of people who haven't heard about that, and best time to grow your crops and what crops to grow based on the seasons. But it's also based off of the star systems and the moon cycles. Um, Western astrology is what I practice. It's more common here. And what that means is that it's based off of if Earth was the center and we have all the planets around Earth, how Western astrology bases their views about it, right? Or how they work with the planets. But then on the Eastern side, they have their own systems and they're very much focused on the stars. So less about the Earth being the central point, but more about the constellations and how that operates.
So
Um,
basically, the Western focuses on where the planets are aligned to
it's more
do
it's
what?
more about how the planets are moving. Yep.
Their
Sorry, what
plans,
were you gonna say?
and that kind of interacts with like your sign, or how does this work? Like,
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you're gonna have people that argue about which system's better, Western or Eastern, right? In some cases, people will say that Eastern is the right way. Everyone has their own viewpoints, but um, the Western astrology, which has been around since the Babylonian era, 2,400 years ago, they operated more based off of the orbit of the planets around the Earth. Eastern astrology is more about how the stars are based in the sky, like constellation wise, and less about the orbits around the Earth. So it's just different viewpoints, like take what resonates with everything in life, right?
okay,
Um, but I personally practice Western astrology, learning more about the Eastern side, but yes.
so as
And
far as Western astrology, what would you do with like a clientele with what you do? Like, say for instance, I came to you and I'm like, okay, I want to, just know a couple of things about myself, and like, what do you do? How do you break things down? How does it work? Is it just the time that I'm born, or how does that work?
yeah, um, client, like I need a time that you were born, and that, that's a struggle sometimes because sometimes clients don't know what time that they were born, but you're limited to what you can see in the chart, right? Like think of a pizza wheel or a pizza slice in 12 slices. You need the time of birth in order to know where the slices fall and how the planets speak to your chart. If you don't know the time of birth, you can't really tell the house system. And the house system is the area of your life, right? So you have 12 houses, and each house represents a different area of our life. And the way that the planets sit in the houses determine our characteristics, right? Like our
So when you say
influence.
planets sit in the houses, is that like metaphorical, like, or like, I don't?
Metaphorical if you're looking at the chart, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it helps to have, and if you can visualize like this wheel, and the planets would sit in the different houses on the wheel, right? Not in the actual sky.
Okay.
If we're talking about the actual sky, when you were born, all the planets were sitting at different constellations in the sky, right? And they were speaking to your chart a certain way. But when you take what was going on in the sky and you bring it down and put it on paper, this is how we can read the different areas of your life components and how the planets speak to that. Let's break it down even more. Um, for instance, right, in order to know your time of birth, you'll get to know what the first house is. And the first house is how we show up in the world, right? Think of it as like there's you, and then this is your life and your environment around you, which is the first house. Okay, and we're going to look at your chart later and see what pops out that we could talk about. But then we go into the second house, and the second house has to do with finances, income, our wealth, our self-worth, things that are valuable to us.
So basically, you can tell if I'm gonna be balling or not, right? In the
I
future.
can tell if there's a higher chance that you will be like more naturally successful at something. For instance, certain planets and the way that they speak in our chart can help us or hurt us, right? Some people will have more struggles in a particular area of their life. Some people will have more marriages and more separations or whatever in their romantic house. Some people will have more money issues,
Is
but it
that
just deter it
is that
depends on the
automatic? Like these things gonna happen, or say they came to you and you could show them the way how they can prevent things from happening because naturally the way that the planets are aligned, it's meant to happen like that. Is it something
no,
like that, or is
no,
how does it work?
it's more like I can help guide you, right? Like I'll have a client and hey, can you look at next year and see what that brings? We could look at the themes of okay, this is what I'm seeing. You're going to be affected in these different areas of your life, right? And this is how it's going to show up, and help them navigate when that time comes. This is how you are able to deal with this a little bit better than if you didn't see it coming and it was blindsiding. You know what I mean?
Right. So when you say like you can tell like a year from now, like some one thing that I've heard around the astrology community is time is fluid, right?
Mm,
So time is
yeah.
fluid means that things can happen now or they can happen in the future or they happen in the past, right?
Yes. Yes, but also the astrology helps determine how the planets are speaking to each other,
So
and they come in
and
time frame.
when you talk about speaking with each other, are you talking is that like an influence on your soul or spirit?
Hmm. It is. It's an energy. It's almost like, okay, for example, say someone's dealing with some career issues, right? Like they're having problems with their boss. I might be able to tell that out because of certain characteristics that planets are known to have. For instance, Mars is about aggression and conflict. It can be, or it can be about your drive and getting stuff done. And if
Mm.
it's conflicting with say another planet such as Saturn, which has to do with authority, then I know that there's an issue right now that's happening with authority in that person's life and how it's speaking to the house system.
Wow. So
Um,
sorry to interrupt, but you said the planet Saturn um influences what?
Saturn influences authority,
Authority. So
and
the planets actually have different types of things that they in control of and as far as our
yeah,
lives.
yes, like energy, yeah,
So
themes or
So, do you know which ones do what exactly? So, because I always hear stuff like Mercury's and retrograde, and I don't really understand these types of terms.
Yeah.
And so, when you say
Yeah.
Saturn rules a certain house, I think the the public too, they don't really know how to comprehend
Okay.
that type of stuff.
No, this is the feedback. Let's break it down. I have my little notes in front of me. Mercury. We're gonna have a Mercury retrograde next week, and a lot of people hear about that. They're like, "Oh my God, what does this mean?" Mercury is the planet of communication, right? It's our thought process. It's how we communicate with other people. Whenever there's a retrograde, it's almost like things can there can be delays, or
So,
there
what
can
does
be
retrograde
loss.
mean for the people that do not know what retrograde means?
Okay, so retrograde means that things slow down or things are not operating the way that we're used to. For instance, like usually around a Mercury retrograde, technology can break down, right? Say like your internet crashes or you start to get into communication issues with people, like you say something you didn't mean to, or things like that come up around a Mercury retrograde, right? It's issues around communication, but retrogrades in general are about going within. Um, Whenever we have these retrogrades come up, it kind of can feel like the world is against us, or it can feel like, wow, all these things are not going the way that I planned for them to go. And usually, what that's telling you is take a step back, right? Like, look within and figure out what it is that is coming up for you that's so frustrating, or whatever it is that you're having a hard time with. How do you work that out internally? Because a lot of this too is coming back to ourselves and reflecting on ourselves of what's going on in the outside world and how that affects us. You get
That's
what I
super
mean?
dope. And what does the other ones mean?
Um, Venus. A lot of people know Venus, the planet of love, its beauty, its even materialistic stuff like our money and our worth, right, is tied to Venus. Mars, which we kind of talked about earlier. In mythology, Mars was known as the god of war, right, the planet of war. Mars, when you're looking at the chart, this is how we handle conflict, whether we're aggressive or not, right? Like, are you someone who's more passive, or are you someone more in your power where you'll like be a little bit more outspoken? You can tell that by the Mars planet because it's our drive, it's our willpower, it's our ability to get things done. And Mars is in retrograde right now too. So what does that mean? Now through next month, we have Mars in retrograde. And for a lot of people, they're getting frustrated because they want to go move ahead, right? They want to like get their action, start their action on something or get something done, but then Mars retrograde will slow it down. It's almost like no matter how hard you're trying to get something off the ground, it's not happening at that pace, or there are situations that are coming up
So
that are blocking.
it sounds like a war on patience.
Yes, very much. That's Mars. Yes, and depending where your Mars is on how patient or impatient you are. Totally. The next planet is Jupiter, and this is where we get, okay, so let me take a step back. We have personal planets, right, which are the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, we just talked about. Then you have transpersonal planets. These
What?
planets they move slower in the sky. And because they move slower in the sky, they're affecting a lot more people. So when certain transits happen in the year, they're not just affecting, yes, they're affecting me and you, but they're also affecting like the greater population, right? The collective.
So
Um,
what's how do people know when these planets are moving in the way that they move into? Is it like somebody that like maybe NASA that looks where these planets are and everybody knows? Like how do people know when this planet is moving into retrograde or that planet is affecting
uh,
the massive consciousness? Like
mhm. Like NASA does have information, not so much about astrology, but more about the planets, right? Like, but as far as like the astrology, you have the Farmer's Almanac, which I talked about earlier. You have a lot of astrology, like information available at our fingertips to see that also. But I personally feel that a lot of this is like the nature calendar. If you're very attuned to like the moon cycles, there's a lot of information about that too and the influence on that. There's so much. I've been doing this for years, so personally, like, it's just
No, I
I know that.
understand. Because even like the moon, right? When there's a full moon, like there's things that happen. There's all types of stuff that goes on with astrology. But continue with the planets, though.
Okay, let's. So we have Jupiter. Jupiter's optimism, right? It's almost like we get a lot of energy from Jupiter in the sense of like we might feel really optimistic. It could be the spirituality within us, right? That faith that keeps you moving, like keeps you going. That's Jupiter. And then Saturn, which is, we talked about authority, and Saturn deals with like responsibility, lessons in life, karma, right? Like if you believe in karma, but how we grow through responsibility and evolving. That's Saturn, learning lessons, and sometimes it's not easy. My light keeps going out. Uranus is the next one, and that's our ability for self-expression, our ability to rebel in a sense where it's like, you know who you are on an individual basis as a person, and you don't necessarily need other people or authority to tell you how to behave. Uranus very much dances to the beat of its own drum. Okay. Pluto. Pluto's another big one. We're going to get into this too, but Pluto's about regeneration, transformation. This is what's happening on a world front, and I want to talk about this also because 2020, there's a lot going on with Pluto, and it's causing old things to like, old systems to die to create new, basically.
The Great Awakening.
It's an awakening process that we all have within ourselves and in the world outside of us that's happening right now. And then Neptune, which is the last planet, it is the more spiritual, creative planet, right? For people who meditate, for people who are artists, right? You play your instruments, or if you're an artist, like you like to draw, it's that place that you go where you kind of just like channel that creativity, right? Like you're lit up based off of that. Neptune is the muse. It's where we get our influence and our imagination from. It's our dreams. It's like that other world, like the other dimension is Neptune. But let's drop some fun facts for the audience right now.
Okay. We
All right.
that.
So this is, I kind of want to like dip into 2020 because I feel like a lot of people want to hear like what's up like with 2020.
Okay.
And let's give some history facts here because this is like where it all kind of ties together.
Okay.
The last time, so right now, what's going on is we have Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. We talked about Jupiter being optimistic, right? Like it wants to keep, it exaggerates everything. It's like energy. It's like gasoline. Think of Jupiter as a gasoline.
So when we talk about, really quickly, when we talk about these planets aligning, right? Mm-hmm. This affects like everybody, like on a global scale, just the energy of the planets, or this is okay.
This does, except with the caveat, right? I'm going to say I'm going off of Western astrology. So if we were talking Eastern astrology, there's some slight changes to this. So
okay.
We're talking specifically Western. But right now, some of the slower moving planets, such as Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, are all in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn has to do with the government. Capricorn has to do with hierarchy, right? The patriarchy or hierarchy, structures, companies like corporations, I would think of as Capricorn. The Capricorn energy is that of like the authoritative, like CEO, kind of like think of that type of energy. And with Pluto there, right? Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008, okay? Pluto is the planet of change and transformation. Since 2008 to 2020, so that's 12 years ago, look at how much has changed since then, right?
So
And
this was pretty
specifically,
much destined to happen. The way the planets like
yes,
intersect or something, it was just meant
yes.
to happen at this time. Then, if the way that these planets align, that's what I'm getting, right?
That's exactly, I think that's exactly why when I look at this, right, I think there's a formula here. There's a science to this too that a lot of people don't pay attention to because they always think about just the sun sign. They only think about their one horoscope sign, that they don't understand how deep astrology goes and how much you can actually learn from astrology in terms of the future and where
and
it's
that
going.
and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because a lot of people don't know a lot about astrology and like how in depth it actually goes. Then just the time of month that you're born and your traits and
Yeah,
um, your compatibilities. We can get on the compatibilities a little later too, because I know people want to hear about that a little bit or
yeah.
whatever you say. And basically people that are born on the cusp and all that type of stuff, right?
Mhm. Mhm. But when you have the facts, right? Like so coming back to this 2008, Pluto comes in and it changes shit, right? Like it uncovers things that are no longer working. So right now what's happening is this structure, the society that we're living in right now, and the government structures and all this stuff needs to change. This is not working anymore. We're moving into something different, which I'll talk about what that future looks like in a bit. But we also have Saturn in Capricorn. And Saturn is the authority. It is the taskmaster. It is the ruler. It comes down with like the karmic lesson that we need to learn. It is about the law. Saturn's about the law. Um, and when we think back to 2008 and what happened in 2008, which was the financial crisis, the last time that Jupiter was in Capricorn and Pluto was in Capricorn was the financial crisis in 2008.
Oh
And this
wow! So that's like
time,
actual
yeah,
proof.
yeah, this is the first time since 2008 that Jupiter has come back to meet with Pluto in Capricorn. And we're going through another economic crisis this year, right? You see what I'm saying?
So
The
you,
last,
so I know there's a lot of. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's certain parts that are coming up, and I feel like it's interesting to talk about.
yeah,
Because you have like a lot of people that feel like the powers that be, you know what I mean, um, are kind of playing certain things out at certain times. So I'm now that I'm hearing this, does your intuition? What does your intuition tell you about as far as are they planning this stuff out, or is just really this is just how the planets are aligning,
it's there's so there's
or is
multiple
it
answers.
both?
This is how the planets are aligned right
Okay,
now,
so
but
the energies are there for that. Okay,
they're there for that. However, there are the powers that be, or powers that were, right? I'd say that would work around certain dates to do what they wanted to do to influence
because
the
they
energy.
know the energy and the power of what's going on,
Right,
and that's why I
right.
think a lot of the masses don't really know about
They
certain
don't.
stuff like this, and
Hmm.
like they just meant to have blinders to only, think about let me put both of the blinders because people don't they that's they want to just only look at what's only meant for them to see, it seems like.
You know what's funny? I think it was J.P. Morgan, and I could be misquoting here, but I'm pretty sure it was J.P. Morgan or one of those, bankers that said millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. Okay, and for the longest time,
That's deep.
it's pretty deep because if you think about it, they made astrology look a certain type of way. Like you stay away from that occult stuff, that's taboo. But they didn't want us to know this knowledge
Right.
because they were
and
using it for
and then when we
advantage.
talk about knowledge too, when you go on a religious standpoint, they'll say this is like demonic and you can't go into that, or you don't believe in whatever a prophet, deity, or God that you believe in. So now you're steered away. That's why this show is called Open Minds, because we're here to
Yeah,
talk about everything. Okay.
yeah.
So even myself, Jade, I grew up Catholic also, and I realized I was having blinders because they taught me blind faith for my blinders. So anything else that comes in my peripheral, I'm not able to see because people said, no, don't look over there or look over there, look over there. And I'm over
Hmm.
here asking why. And so this is nothing to, much respect to all the religions. Like
Yes.
I said before, whatever you feel like that keeps you in the light and your vibrations high and living a great, positive life, that's where you
Yes.
should be. Whoever you believe in, Jesus. Shout out to
Hmm.
Buddha. Shout out to all the deities that are in the light, and that's how things should be. But when you have blinders on, you're not able to see other types of powers that's going on here, and a lot of people are not even able to see the types of powers that they have within themselves.
Amen to that. Like honestly, I resonate with everything that you just said because it's this is about taking what resonates, right? Like not trying to say that astrology is the only way to go. It's helped me a lot, but I respect people at where they're at on their journey, what they connect with, and what brings their vibration up, just like you said.
Right.
Um, but I do kind of want to I want to bring another history fact in.
Let's go.
Okay,
Let's go with
uh,
it.
the age of Aries was the Spartan age during the Roman Empire, right? And when the Crusades happened, the Crusades when they started converting all of these regions, right, these territories into Christianity, that was the turning of an age. We were moving out of the Spartan era, which was like think of like what's that movie called
300.
where yes, like 300. That was a Spartan era. So we were coming out of that, and that's when all the Crusades started coming in and trying to convert everyone to Christianity, and we entered the age of Pisces. Pisces in astrology is a spiritual sign. It represents the fish, and in Christianity, the fish is the symbol of Jesus, right? And now we're in a turning of an age. In 2020, even before that, we've been for the last several years, probably even longer, at the turning of a new epoch, which is every 2,000 years or so. We're now moving into the age of Aquarius. We're already here. We're in it. So all these old organizations are crumbling in a sense. And I don't say that to cause fear to people. It just means that there's change, and not even crumbling like religion or Christianity is going away. It's not that. It's exactly what you just said. We're elevating our consciousness. We're starting to open our minds more to things, right? And not just off of how tradition always was and we have to follow this. We're moving into the age of Aquarius now where it's more about community. It's more about like brotherhood and sisterhood coming together as a people, as a humanity. And we're seeing all these things come up in 2020 that is showing us to come back to community and come back to connection. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there we go. Energy. Energy is everything, let me
So,
tell you.
see, my spirit, I didn't even know why. Well, I do know why. That, Spirit has called me to do this. Why Spirit has called me to talk to Jade. She's in Dallas, Texas right now. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Austin,
So
actually.
there's a lot of frequencies that are aligning for this type of knowledge to be out here, and I'm glad to have her on the platform to do this. But continue.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know. Do we want to keep going with the history
Let's go.
facts? Like,
Well, the
okay,
history, yeah, let's go with the history, and you get into. No, you brought history up to this day and age, so it
okay,
kind of gives a little great synopsis of what we're dealing with, as far as like the time and age and where the planets are at. So there's planets that cause a lot of things in society to even happen, let
yeah,
alone within people themselves too, because this stuff is not only changing like the energies of
it
like
changed
what's
the
going
world.
on, but the end like there's certain things that what from the
Yeah,
time you was born and
I mean, personal level, right? Like, so yeah, we're all having the impact of how this is affecting us personally, but on a world level too. Like, there's so much over the next several years that's going to continue to shift. Like, this isn't just a 2020 fluke. It's not like where did this year come from? Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, that's not that's not how this works. And what's happening is this slow regeneration. Like, for instance, like we're seeing elements of the Great Depression, right, come back now. And I have actual astrology transits that can map back to the 1930s when everything was going down and in the same or similar fashion as what's going on here in 2020. Like cycles are repeating, basically, I
so
guess is.
from my understanding, I know this entities, that run a lot of stuff. Well, I believe you have to get power in order for
Yeah,
something else to have power over you. But
right.
there's some certain entities that feel like their power is slowly slipping, the veil is slowly coming down. So now that I listen to this, I'm actually thinking like maybe all these things that are happening are like distractions to keep you in line or something because they know the energy is going to happen anyways,
They
the
know
way
that
the
it's going to
planets
happen.
are going, because it's
Yeah,
happening. There's a lot of
they
people
know it's
that's
going to
waking
happen.
up.
Yeah. No, no, you're right. Because like they're making it drag on as long as they can, using the planetary influences, right? Like, and everything's back to intention. Like, what is your intention behind it? Is it for good or is it for bad? Like the opposite of that. And so, I personally feel that next month with the astrology, obviously November in general is gonna seem crazy. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling like what's gonna happen, right? But with the astrology, there's indicators too that there's a lot more change coming, that's going to affect a lot of us. We see it with the education systems. We see it with the job situation, right? And the economy. Like things need to evolve and things need to change. But what I want people to understand is that everything that's happening right now is happening for a higher reason. Like we're moving, into a new era, basically. And the planets are influencing us right now to move into this new way of thinking and being and living and telling us like what needs to go. Do you get what I'm saying?
Right. So when we're talking about this new era, so as far as the history lesson that was so great that you brought up to this point. So now we're in the age of Aquarius, and it's more about community and all that. So what is in the future that the planets and everything that are aligned? What is that going to look like? Can you give people a synopsis of how it would look like? Even though that we see a lot of we see these entities are trying to hold on as long as they can, but like I guess you're saying to me and to the public to masses that things are gonna change whether these entities like it or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm feeling that where we're moving towards is more, we're moving into Aquarius. So, like I said, it's more of like that community feel. There's going to be a lot more compassion between people. And we're seeing that in the events play out this year, right? Where things are happening and people are stepping up and speaking up and they've had it, right? A lot of people have had it with this year. They're coming together in communities, local communities, to stand in their power together, powers in numbers. And this is just a beginning. Like, we're going to need to rely on each other as a community to be able to sustain and to be able to grow and to be able to support one another, because when all this other stuff starts coming undone, like we've all known currency and money and what money's looked like since however long, however many generations. But I even feel that money's changing. Like when I talk to my clients about, just to give them an example of like what this transition looks like, a lot of us who are listening can probably relate or remember back to Y2K. And around Y2K 1999, they were like, oh, there's going to be the end of technology and all the technology is going to just go haywire. And do you remember that? And they were like,
Yeah, I do
when the
remember
stock,
Y2K. And then they said something in 2012 was supposed to happen.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. So the
So that might
Y2K
be a lot of
situation.
skepticism to why people are like, oh, okay, we've heard this before, you know?
Yeah, and people roll their eyes, but like, let me, how about this, let's think of it this way. There was a lot of fear back in 1999 where they were like, oh, when we hit 2000 everything's going to shut down, all the computers are going to fail. That actually did not happen. What ended up happening was we had the MP3 player, the iPod, which turned into the iPhone, and before you know, and GPS systems and navigation systems, and before you know it, technology was going absolutely out of control, where we were like walking computers with devices and became so attached to these screens, right? Over the
Nice.
over the
Right.
decade after,
Right.
from 2000 2010, look at that quantum leap, that huge jump of what changed since then. So we are now moving into something similar where that amount of change over the next few years is going to look so different from like where we are today talking.
So,
Um,
so
yeah.
like, are you talking about technology wise? Because I hear things like they're trying to make like human like hybrid type, half computer, half human, like all different types of things. And I know that we're moving into flying cars and all. Are you talking about stuff like that, or what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Oh, technology for sure. I couldn't even tell you what that technology looks like yet because it. I'm sure it's being developed right now, but it's not paper currency. I'll tell you that. Like I don't feel that it's going to be paper currency in
Well,
the
I
next
feel
few.
like they're trying to move, the financials more digital, right?
Right, and they are, and I guess that could be an example of like what we try out or experiment. I don't know, like I don't know when this new system is going to be put in place. We could look at the astrology and guess, but again, like I think we were talking earlier about time being fluid. It also depends on how much progress people make, when they're ready to unveil it, all of that stuff. But that aside, education systems changing. Look at this year, and this was the first time where they had to pull kids out of school for the most part and keep them homeschooled, right? In
Hmm.
like across the world or across the country at the very least. And it's things like that that are changing, like even telehealth. I mean, I feel like there's going to be more um, connecting with doctors instead of going to the actual
Right.
uh,
A lot
building.
of jobs, a lot of people staying home, like they're starting to realize we don't need all these people at work. Now, when I hear this, I don't know if it's an agenda behind it. Like,
It
why?
can be either which way. That's the thing. It can go either way. It's up to us.
Yeah, up to the collective that give power to whatever we want or not want, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think what we're seeing in the world right now is that people are speaking up and people are coming together in community fighting back, right? Like the powers that were fighting back in community, supporting each other. A lot of local businesses are supporting each other right now because a lot of them have been hurt from this year. And this is where we pull our power back, right? This is where we put our resources into what we want to instead of consuming all the time and giving into that narrative that we always were lost in for a very long time. Um, and this is just the beginning of this, like the actual age of Aquarius coming together. But, I feel that technology is going to boost. I feel that we can, I mean, look, I feel that there's going to be a lot of technology that comes out that has actually already been here, but has been held back from sharing it with the world because of what it could do for us and
Right.
what that.
As
Yeah.
far as my knowledge, I know that there's certain entities that have gotten a lot of technologies. I mean, 100 years in advance of technology, and they're only sharing about 5 to like 10, 15 years of this technology. When we talk about technology, I'm talking about technology like time travel. I'm talking about all different types of holographic. They're already showing us a little bit about the holographics,
Oh
um,
yeah.
with the
Absolutely.
holographic celebrities on stage dancing.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
there is a conspiracy theory out there that
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to do a fake alien invasion. We're supposed to see holographic spaceships in the sky because, people are very naive.
Mm-hmm.
People watched a box called, and there's something called the news on there, and they
Yeah.
believe every single thing, even if it doesn't make sense. Even the people who are trying to justify things are not even justifiable. So I can only imagine the type of technology they could just confuse the masses with, unless they
Yeah.
present it themselves, and that's the only way they'll believe it. Oh no, but the news told me that this is what it is. But go ahead.
I completely agree with you, and I don't know what we do about like the box technology or what that looks like, but think of like even energy, gasoline, oil, all of that. We don't really need that, right? Like there's technology where we can use more natural products that are not hurting the earth or the environment and are a lot cheaper for us. Like
Well, I think that will hurt the gas industry uh, a lot, especially that's if they them oil billionaires, if that's how they make their money, those are the ones that'll be hurting the most. But I'm taking it like, how much money do you need? Just go into something that's better with the earth. Invest the money in that, because
right,
especially if you're watching this show and you know that these are going to happen naturally through the ways the planets are aligned. And
yeah,
people have to believe into astrology too, because a lot of people coming into this, they don't know nothing about this, so they can be like planets align and this and that, and they might believe a whole nother like story or rhetoric, whether it's religion or other types of
right.
sciences and all type of stuff, or just economics. Just they might just believe in economics and what's going on. So this is astrology, and we have I am Jade Moon, the Magnificent, and she explains. So we're gonna go into basically a more obviously technology type of world.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we
what do people have to like look out for or whatever, like as far as like astrology is concerned, to look forward to? And I know we all have to be grounded and stay positive energy. You see the hat, lingoinkboutique.com. So what
hmm
else can you tell the people as far as that?
I mean, if people are interested in I offer readings, right? So if people are interested in knowing like what does my next year outlook look like, or what do I need to know personally about my chart, I'm happy to help um, guide you with that. I also feel that I have to say intuition and trusting yourself is number one. Like that is one thing I always tell my clients is trust yourself, right? Stop looking outside for information and for validation. Stop checking the box and did they say this, right? Like what tune in with your body. What feels right to you internally? What does your intuition say? And I feel that for so long we have been operating so much more on the logic in our mind and like facts and evidence, which is it's necessary, don't get me wrong, but people don't know how to process their own emotions and they don't know how to trust their own feelings and listen to their own body, and
Because I
that's
feel like people are listening, just like you said, to other, uh, you know, types of sources than themselves. They're not
mm-hmm,
going with the intuition. They're looking. I mean, a lot of people. The news is so toxic, but that's where they get all their information from.
right.
And people are like, oh no, I get myself online and I read these books and all these read that, but I'm talking about just day to day stuff and certain things that doesn't even make sense. They still, instead of the intuition, they're gonna go believe into other sources. So you're saying the source is really yourself. Yourself has the
The
power.
number is ourselves, right? Like we are. I'm a very spiritual person. I feel like every all the answers that you have are within. Um, trust trust yourself, right? Like, but yes, if you want more granular information about the astrology and like what is my look, what can you tell me about what's coming up right now, or how do I navigate this? Because sometimes people have a hard time, like either making decisions or working things out through themselves. Sometimes people need support and guidance, and that's what the astrology is there for, right? It's there as a tool to kind of help you work with it, but at the end of the day, it's your work to do. We're all on our own individual journeys, um, and we have to fix within. That's what
So
I always.
so basically, um, let's do like a quick tutorial, and I'm gonna let you go and break down my sign. So I'm coming to you, and I need to know what's going down for me. I don't know anything of anything. Break down my sign.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. I have your chart, so, and I'm not going to share it with the world, but we're going to get into your personality, okay?
Okay.
So you're an Aries sun. So you're,
Aries ain't scary, baby. Go ahead.
first sign of the zodiac. You're a very driven person, very passionate, right? Aries is a fire sign.
More fire. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very driven. They're very action oriented. If they see something they want, or there's an idea that they have, they're going to go after it with passion. And when we talked about the houses,
okay,
how the houses relate to an area of our life, your sun is in your 7th house, right? Which deals with like long-term partnerships. Now, this can be a variety of things. This could be a business partner. This could be a best friend. This could be like, I don't know, marriage or a long-term relationship, right? Kind of thing. But with the sun there in the 7th house in Aries, relationships are very important for you. Interactions with other people, very important for you. Your Mercury, which is how we conversate and communicate with other people. It's also like your ideas that you get, right? You do well working with other people because also Mercury's in the 7th house with relationships. So I see that relationships are a huge influence in your life. Your moon sign, which we talked about earlier, which is the subconscious, your emotions, right? Your moon's in Cancer. I have a moon in Cancer. And what this is the natural state in the sense of you're very intuitive to feeling the environment of a room, feeling other people's energy. It's like your intuition game is really strong and your instinct.
Really strong. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. And so you're guided a lot of the times through the decisions you make and the actions that you make. A lot of it is internalizing through how does this make me feel, right? Some people make decisions based off of logic where it's like, well, does this seem practical? But you are off of the emotional radar, right? Am I driving with this? Does this person feel authentic in what they're saying? Like you can, your bullshit radar, I guess you call it that, is pretty on point. And you can pick up other people's emotions and energies. It could be very draining to you easily too. So you have to be
very much so sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, because if you're around a toxic environment, you end up being the one that drains out from just being around all of that energy.
That's a fact.
And I think that's a good thing that you have that moon there because that intuition, man, like let me tell you, intuition is your number one superpower. It gets you out of situations that you don't need to be in. You know what I mean? It helps you avoid a lot of headaches and drama that you don't need to be in. So I see that about your chart. One thing a lot of clients come to me about is like, what is my purpose? What is my calling, right? What am I supposed to be doing career-wise?
So you can actually see that through the chart, like your
Yes.
birth chart?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And what I see here for you is your relationships with other people play such a huge role that this is what's going to make you most fulfilled, right? So like in astrology, it's the 10th house that is our career. We're able to tell what our career or what our purpose career-wise or professional life, like where we would do best in based off of the sign that it's in. Yours is in Cancer. So with your moon, with your ability to pick up on other people's emotions, with your ability to see through things a little bit more intuitively, you have a natural affinity to be like to help other people, right? You have this compassion about you where it's like, I don't just want to help you, like I really care that you get the help that you need or that I'm here for you. Like you see things through and you have this compassionate nature about you when it comes to I feel fulfilled when I know that this person is taken care of.
Right. And when the world is taken care of, when my family's taken care of, when my friends are taken care of, when the Jade is taken care of, because that's what really it matters. Like it can't just be about myself. And I guess that's all, attest to truth because this whole platform here is meant to help people out. Go ahead. I agree.
And what a great segue that you just talked about this platform, right? Because we have what's called the North Node. Now,
And what does the
this
North Node mean?
um, metaphorically, the North Node is your North Star, right? It's like your destiny, like your purpose.
So
You'll
everybody has a
find
North Node, right? Everybody has one?
North Node, everyone.
Okay.
And while everyone has a North Node, we also have a current North Node in the sky right now, okay? You were born with the North Node in Gemini in the 8th house. Communication with other people and connections with other people, like even like these conversations that we're having is the perfect example. This channel and this platform that you have is the perfect example of like your calling, right? Being able to open the mind of others, because Gemini is very much about the mental, our mental affinity and our ability to communicate with people and help people have an open mind. So it's so ironic and
Oh,
synchronistic
wow.
that it's called open minds, because that's
Oh,
Gemini
wow.
is about being adaptable and communicating with other people and having an open mind in your dialect with other
So
people.
Open Minds was destiny.
It's the universe, man. Like
The
this is what I'm talking.
universe has called
Right.
for open minds, for the masses, for the people.
Yeah, so your North Node is in the 8th house, and this is helping people transform themselves through these conversations.
I'm
Whether
supposed to
it's
be here, people.
I hope they hear this, and I hope it helps them, like, because I think that's your intention, right? Is to have someone listen in on something that they weren't educated about before, and they learn something new, and they go and research it, and it changes their life, and it helps them in the long run. And that's what the North Node in Gemini, like, that's what I see is where you'd find a lot of fulfillment. The interesting, it gets better. Right now, the current North Node in the sky is in Gemini. And so within the next 2 years, you're going to have that lineup where they meet, right? So it's almost like opportunities, I feel like, over the next couple of years, because this is how long the North Node transits in a sign, is about 2 years. Over the next 2 years, there's going to be a lot of opportunities coming through in your ability to connect with other people and help heal them through these communications that we're having now. And I like that you're very open-minded, because I think right now another theme that I'm feeling about 2020 is that a lot of people's belief systems, either they've already been rocked and changed or are about to over the next few years.
Right. And some people, they're still pressing snooze because they're still comfortable in the reality that they think that they're living in. And some people are just meant to sleep through it all. Like,
Not,
they're
I mean,
just,
not for long will they be able to,
some people, some
yeah.
people are not meant to wake up to really see what's out there more than what they know. And some people just follow in line and just go along with the rhetoric, with
Mhm.
what they're taught.
Well, yes, but um, I'm going to leave a little teaser here for the audience, and I'm not going to get too much into it.
Uh-oh.
Look out for November 12th, which is a month out from now. We already know November is going to be like, everyone's kind of sitting at the edge of their seat trying to figure out what's going to happen. But in a month from now, we're going to have another transit that we've had a few times this year, okay? And I'm going to drop some little like rabbit trails, right? um, April, June, and November are the 3 months of the year where these specific planetary transits that many astrologers have been talking about for a long time, we're watching. And when everything shut down in March, right, we had stuff going on astrologically that impacted that. Okay. I say watch out for November because there's going to be more shifts, and partly because of the planetary influence
You
there.
said more
And
shifts?
shifts, changes, yeah,
Okay.
like more stuff coming out. There's already a lot of stuff coming out right
Oh,
now, and
it's
people,
it's like a circus. It's like the
it's a
Twilight Zone
circus,
out here.
and people don't know what to believe, right? Like there's so much information, and it's like people are like their minds are spinning because they don't know
There's a
what.
glitch in the matrix, people. There's a glitch.
Yes, the matrix is breaking, and I feel that by December there's we're having this conversation right now. It's October 9th. Let's do let's do a future episode and check in December.
Oh, we're definitely having Jade back on to speak about what's going down. Okay.
That's what,
And if you want a personal guide to astrology, go contact Jade. Where can they contact you? Jade?
Of my Instagram at I am Jade.
You see it on the screen right now. So follow her, leave her a message, get in contact with her. She will guide you to your destiny. North Node, baby. Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm learning. I just learned that tonight. North Node, Destiny Star, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
We learning tonight. You gonna learn tonight.
You're already on your path, though. You already know what you're doing because you're trusting your intuition. Because you're trusting what feels right.
Exactly.
That's my biggest takeaway. It could be so simple, right? Like that's my biggest.
I mean, it's from my own personal journey. Obviously, it took me a lot to get here. Right. Trials and tribulations, pain, heartache, all the above. Yeah. But my intuition, the spirit has called me to come do all of this. You see the attire, you see the show, you see the guest, you see the energy, you see the vibration is high. This is the only thing. And when we talk about vibrations and we talk about power, you can only get that up to whatever you want to give it up to. You can either hold that power and vibration high for yourself, or you can give that away. And that's whatever you're aligning yourself with. Mm-hmm. So, Jade, I want to go into basically compatibilities. A lot of people don't really know about compatibilities, their signs, and who they get along with, and I think some people just believe that whatever month they're born in, that's their sign. Yeah. Whatever sign you are is gonna be like what it is to be compatible with somebody else. When you just mentioned everything about the house, the planet, where they align at, and all types of other shifts and Mercury retrogrades and all that, so yeah. It's different, right? What can you say about that?
No. Either they love you or they hate you or they gon' judge you. It is what it is.
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 Being your own, living your truth. All these egos and pride got something to prove. I got my diva inside, cooped in a coop. Keep your feelings inside. I do what I do, I move how I move, choose what I choose. Third eye's active in motion, magnificent views. There's too many options, so much to choose. What is for me is just not what's for you. Vice versa, let it all go, most of it's not worth it. Just stay focused on your goals and life purpose. Be a student of this life and never stop learning. Never stop learning. Nah, there's some shit you just gotta accept. Your reality is created by the thoughts in your head. You.
Stay focused.
My mama told me stay focused.
My girl told me stay focused.
My girl told me stay focused.
My homie told me stay focused. Fuck what them haters say. Keep stacking that